it going, guys? Good to see you again. It's been a hot minute since I made a video, so I figured I'd give you a little update. Hope everybody's been keeping safe through all these crazy times. I know everybody's got a lot of ass time, and I figured I'd take the time to finish my car and kind of run through an update video with you guys. Alright, starting from the front, we got our S13 240sx hatch. I know many of you have built these cars, and for good reason. I know when I started drifting there was a abundance of these chassis available for a decent price. Price has been going up steadily, but I have lots of extra parts for these cars, and I pretty much built this car with just stuff I have laying around my shop. So there's no real body kit on the car. I guess I'll just start with the hood. So the hood's raised up a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. We just use little lug nuts underneath the hinges, and that's just to help clear the Vq35 intake. And I also fixed mounted my lids, so they're actually molded to the body. I tried to do as best a job as I could. I'm not an auto body guy by any means. These are molded into the hood, so that we kind of have like a fixed sleepy eye look. And I kind of stole the idea from a guy in Japan, which is cool because when you open your hood, the lids stay on the hood, instead of being down here. So it just makes my engine bay look a lot bigger and cleaner. There, I got my hood propped up, so you can kind of see what I was saying. Just makes the engine bay look much cleaner. So I guess we'll start with the engine. It's a Vq35 out of a 350Z. It's a pretty basic engine. I know most people, it's a 50-50. I have some haters and some lovers, but I don't know. There's an abundance of these for pretty cheap. If you can make 300 horsepower NA, it's pretty much your V8 numbers of your junkyard LS. I know all you guys are on the LS bandwagon, so I'm an enthusiast. I like 350Zs. I like the way VQs sound, and like I said, making 300 horsepower off an engine that you can find for $500-600. If you hunt around, there's good deals out there. So anyway, needless to say, it's a VQ35. We've done a bit of porting on the intake. It's all been kind of gutted out underneath there, and just really cleaned up, and I'd say ported. And then we have a 3-inch cold air intake, bigger injectors. I know it's probably hard for you guys to see down there, but there are some custom headers. So it's got custom headers as well. Go on this side. Yeah, now you can see them. So it does make a pretty distinct noise. We're running the Haltech ECU and Deutschwerks 800cc injectors. It has the Pathfinder coolant mod, so it's running dual thermostats. So coolant is actually entering the block in the back here. It's kind of tricky for you to see. So my engine temps have been really cold, and it helps keep the back two cylinders noticeably colder. Long story short, Pathfinders were designed, they said, oh, they're going to be towing, so they're going to need better cooling. So the same engine that was making less horsepower got the better cooling, which is kind of silly in my opinion. It's also got the aluminum valve covers from a Pathfinder. So I found that the 350Z valve covers sweat, and the plastic just looks like garbage. So these are shaved down aluminum valve covers. I think they look cooler. They seal up really nice. Got a new radiator with some decent fans on there. Made a nice shroud. But yeah, it's a pretty basic setup. That's the engine. The engine bay, we did some tub fenders on each side to keep the water out of the engine bay. Stitch welded pretty much the whole chassis. Has been stitch welded, so everything's been stiffened up. We've got removable bash bars on front and back, and it's utilizing these quick release pins. So the whole front end can kind of just come off once you remove those pins. We got the fixed mounted LED headlights. This is pretty much a track use car only. And then I wired up my fog lights and my signals to run at the same time. So they're going to be always illuminated, which is kind of cool. And then my chin spoiler kind of protrudes out of the bumper from the bash bar. I did that on purpose, just kind of for looks. This car's not running a body kit, so I wanted to, I don't know, give it a bit of my own style without having to order a bunch of body kits that always break or don't fit good. So factory body panels, just been trimmed out, so it has a nice open spot for air. Kind of reminds me of a GTR almost. That's pretty much the front end. As far as front suspension and steering arms and stuff like that, control arms I should say, we're running 40 mil custom control arms that I've made in-house, extended 40 mil. Modified knuckles, 2001 Maxima tie rods, inner tie rods, and then just S14 outers. I've also moved the steering rack forward about 20 millimeters. We did the Nismo style power brace. It's tucked under there. You can never be able to see it, but that has dimpled eyes underneath, so if the car's on a lift, it does look pretty cool. Also got that cooler is actually for power steering. I've had issues with power steering pumps overheating, so that's a power steering oil cooler. It's kind of nice too because this is all part of the bumper, so it kind of creates a natural louver, I guess you could say, or a dam. I don't know. Skid plate. It helps direct the air. Needless to say, we also did like custom chassis harness and custom mooring harness for the engine. So Rev Performance did the engine harness, hooking up to the Haltech ECU, and it helps clean up the engine bay noticeably because we have literally just one wiring loom going to the engine. So that's pretty much the front of the car. Got our safety stuff here too. Safety kill switch. I haven't made a hole yet because our season's been kind of postponed a little bit, so haven't been eager to finish that quite yet, but that is our kill switch. Been kind of moving around the car. Like I said, it's factory panels all around. These are just little 280Z fender flares that have been crunched a million times, so I just cut them to kind of get like a half fender, expose the back of the wheel. It's 100% for looks. It's not going to do anything. Also got some side skirts. The rockers on this car weren't the best, so I patched them up, but the side skirts definitely finished the car off there. The doors are extremely gutted. I removed the factory crash bar inside here and removed everything except the electric motor. I know it's a race car with electric windows, I'm crazy, but it was easier for me to leave the electric window and be able to drive this car in the rain. But yeah, the doors are really gutted, really light. We did the full roll cage in there. Like I said, if you go back to the first video, you can see how it got to this state. We got our NRG FRP 600 racing seat, Halo style seat, fixed mounted to the car. Really like this seat. It's the bolstering on it is really nice. It holds you, it looks good. Everything else in the car is energy for the most part, so just gotta get an energy harness to match. But for now, that's what I'm running. Then I made kind of like a pedal box, I guess you could say, just to kind of lift my feet up a little bit. Sorry, I'm using my phone as a light. But yeah, it's a pedal box to kind of lift my feet up a little. I moved the throttle pedal out about an inch so you can heel toe a little easier. And yeah, that's pretty much my pedals. And then we have S14 dash to kind of modernize the car, a little bit more modern look. One of the coolest features I like about this build is the tachometer and the RPM gauge, or the tachometer and the speedometer, sorry, and the RPM gauge. They actually move with the steering wheel. So you can see here, don't mind my handling here. So it's kind of cool if you're sitting in the seat. The gauges move with your steering wheel. So if you're tilting your steering wheel down, you're not going to be having to look for your gauges or be in a comfortable spot to be able to see everything. So that's a cool feature. I also did all my harness and my fuse block, my chassis harness, all up top here. That way it's very easily accessible. I can check relays and fuses for the car while I'm sitting in line. If anything pops, it will illuminate and I can see exactly which fuse is blowing. I also have the Haltech ECU and its fuse panel for the engine inside the car, once again just for ease of access and I don't know, flex points. I usually mounted them under the dash here, but passengers' feet would always hit it, and if I was checking fuses or even plugging in a laptop, it was always kind of a pain in the ass. So we got everything on the dash here laid out really nice. Pretty much engine vitals. Got AFR gauge, engine coolant, volts, oil pressure. That's pretty much it. I'll probably get a fuel gauge. And then we have an array of switches. We have ignition, start, fans, headlights, running lights, and then these are wipers. This is my alternator light, so this is going to tell me if there's any issues with the charging system. And that's pretty much it. That's a really easy setup. I still have to hook up the windows, so there'll be 2 more switches there for windows. That's pretty much the inside of the car. Full spec cage. Like I said, if you go back in some of the other episodes, you can see us build this cage. It came out really nice. Has intrusion bars and all that good stuff. So that's pretty much the inside of the car. Now I had to make a bulkhead for the rear of the car for fuel containment as per the rule book. So we got a bulkhead here with a sheet of aluminum. I still have to run some gas lines. They'll probably be under the car, but I have to cap off this spot. This is our brake shut off, or our battery shut off, I should say. This isn't for an emergency shut off. This is just for me, so that my battery doesn't drain. If I'm not using the car, I can just come in here and shut this off. We have a master fuse for the whole chassis harness right here, easily accessible, and you can also see it through the windshield. And then we're left with our limited trunk space. I'm going to be mounting a fuel cell in here. I know it's a little dark. Let me grab my phone. So I'll be mounting a fuel cell back here. That's the next thing I got to do. But besides that, we have our elevated battery tray. So it's actually lifted off the trunk floor. So if our fuel cell has to kind of run under here, it has enough room. So the elevated battery tray in the back, that's pretty much it. I know I have ugly stock taillights. Somebody had commented on that. If you want to hook me up with some taillights, feel free, because I run what I got, and if they smash, I got another set. So anyway, I'm going to close this. I have my Craigslist spoiler here. Nothing fancy, but I did make new end plates for it. These are just like black plexiglass, so they're actually see-through. See-through. I made my own risers to kind of give it a cool look. So that's a budget spoiler. Yeah, factory taillights, and then the removable bash bar here in the rear. Same thing, using these quick release pins. So you just pop those out and this whole thing will slide right off, which is really cool. Each bash bar is utilizing like a slip fit type anchor point. So this bash bar actually slides into the car a good, like, I don't know, I'd say 12 to 16 inches going into the frame rail. So if you get hit from the back, you're not just going to rip your base plates off and have massive holes that used to have bolts. Hopefully this bash bar will get destroyed and I can just pull it out and make a new one, and the car will remain the same. That was kind of my ideology there. The hatch and the quarter panels now have Lexan, and because I was running that bulkhead, I mounted actually the Lexan on the inside of the car. So it kind of gives it more depth. It makes the car look a little wider, if that makes sense. And it separates the inside of the car from the trunk. So I'm going to be running some lights just to kind of illuminate the trunk at night. I think it'll look cool. You can see the fuel cell and the battery. I also put these kind of smoke extracting holes here in the back in hopes that the bellowing smoke will find its way out of the back of the car through this gaping hole that's in the trunk. So that's kind of the rear hatch. I made a roof spoiler. Once again, it's been fixed to the car. It's not an aftermarket deal. I made it in-house, and it does actually vent from the top. There are holes under here so that inside the car is going to be getting fresh air and no water is allowed to come inside. So the Lexan, like I said, is mounted on the inside of the quarter panels, giving the car a bit wider look. Like, it looks like I have 50 mil overs, but I only really have 30. I think these might even be only 20. They're pretty shallow. So it gives the car a bit wider look, and the Lexan's on the inside. I don't know, it's just different. I made these scoops here, fully functional scoops, to draw air into the back of the car where the fuel cell is and the battery, in hopes to keep my fuel cooler. I mean, we're pretty fortunate with weather here, but I have had issues where it's really hot out and the fuel does actually start boiling. So that's just hopes to extract some smoke and keep everything in the rear of the car nice and cool, shaded, out of sight, out of mind. That speedometer I was talking about earlier is actually a GPS speedometer. So this is our pickup on the roof for speed. These are used over fenders, like I said, probably 20 mil. They were really banged up and ugly, sitting in my parts bay. I was actually just going to end up chucking these, but once I painted them, they looked alright. And I want to use this car anyway, so if they get a little damage, it won't hurt my feelings at all. So coming into the passenger side, you can still see obviously the gutted doors and the Hall Tech and all the wiring up top. Like I said, ease of access. And I also put red LEDs on the inside of the car and the floorboards, which is pretty cool because I took up all the wiring. So there's like no wiring here. So when you light up the car at night, it just looks like a nice clean chassis, and it really glows with the white cage. I'm using a stock seat. I believe it's a 240sx seat. Reason being is it is the lowest fitting seat, and it also gives my passengers adjustability. It can move forward, it can recline, and when we're competing, we're not allowed to have passengers anyway, but it's enough to strap somebody in there, and big or small, and be as comfortable as possible. So just factory passenger seat. I'm running the 350Z transmission. I think it's like a CDO5. So factory shift location and everything. I never modified the shifter as some VQ guys do. That's just where it ended up, and it works for me. I have my pretty much a custom made hydro. I use some of the PBM parts, but I've changed the lever geometry to face me. The master cylinder used to actually be going that way into the car, so when you pull on it, it would change the geometry of it essentially. So Willwood Master, it is in line. I need to get better brakes for this car, so I'm running what I got right now, and that's just inline. If I do dual caliper, I'll probably upgrade the whole brake system at that point. So just gonna use what I got for now. Oh, another little funny creature comfort here. I always like to have at least some kind of storage in the car, even if it is just a track car. And what we have in there is a little crescent wrench, some multi-tools, electrical tape, some zip ties, lip chap, fuses. Basically anything you need if you're just stuck on the track and you don't want to pull the car back to the pits, you might be able to fix it right there. So that's just a kind of like a little creature comfort. And it's actually an old drill bit case. So it's kind of neat. My e-brake lever is also an 1 1/8" socket. I like to be creative. So that's pretty much the inside of the car. We have our brake strips on the front and the rear for the judges. It's part of our build criteria. You have to have that. But yeah, that's pretty much an overview of the car. I believe these wheels are 17 by 9.5 Rota. Not even sure the offset, but I have 6 of these wheels matching, which are pretty cool. Running 235 45 R17 Zestino Gretsch tires, really grippy. So I have 6 of these rims, and then a couple mix match spares. But I like to try to keep all of the same wheels on the car. I know that's hard, but it looks good when you're getting content. But all in all, that's pretty much my car. I'm stoked on it. Yep, it's a VQ. Yeah, sure, it might sound like a trumpet, but hey, 300 horsepower, NA. I think it's simple. I think it looks cool. I'm an enthusiast. Nissan engine, Nissan car. Just works. Why not buy a 350Z? Well, I had a 240 that I got for free, so that's why. But anyway, that's my car. We're going to be doing fuel cell next, and hopefully we can get this car fired up, and then we'll get it on my buddy's lift, just so I can show you guys everything underneath. The exhaust system. It's a full custom exhaust system. 2.5-inch mid pipes. Then there's a Y pipe in there, 3-inch exit, running a can in the rear. Might be able to show you at least the back section here. Oh, there you go. I don't know if you guys can see that. No, it's just a little subtle dump. Kind of goes around the axle, but anyway. That's pretty much the car. Like I said, I'd like to get it up on a lift, and then I can show you guys underneath the car the full exhaust system. Like I said, 2.5-inch mid pipes to a Y pipe, 3-inch exit with a muffler on there, so it's not obnoxiously loud. I also got the drive shaft safety loop. It's kind of cool. You'll never see it, but I painted it yellow and made it in-house as well. And it's a cool mod that no one will see. It's kind of fun to make something different. Never done that before, so. Anyway, that's my car. That's the update video. I think it looks cool. But until then, that's all I got for you. Stay safe out there. Spend some time on your car. Finish up any odds and ends you guys need to do around the house while you got the time, so that when we can get back out drifting, we'll hit her with a full assault. I know I'm itching to get out. Anyway, throw me a subscribe if you could, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.